to all operating towns in one school district are in the same VSBA region. That's the sense of the resolution.
I'll accept the motion to pass this.
So move.
Lord, yes.
Laura with the first. Do we have a second? Jim Salzgiver? You know his board, I think, Sue.
Yeah.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, if I vote will be to accept the committee's recommendation to pass this. All those in favor of passing, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Number 10.
Number 10, committee recommendation is take no position. Committee recommended change, which were adopted and resubmitted. What?
No. Marlboro, number 10.
I'll get there in the next sentence. Were adopted and resubmitted by the submitting board. The resolution number 10 on board development Marlboro recommends it to the membership that it pass. It was given back to the board, they changed it, sent it back in, and then we recommended that it be passed.
So the committee took no action on it, and then the full VSBA board then recommended it pass after it passed.
Correct.
Just to clear that up. All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the committee's report to pass this. We got Dan MacArthur and Don Collins.
Second it.
You have that, you know their board, Sue, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion on this?
Mr. President, I commend Dan for being open-minded and going back and talking with his group and bringing it back a revised one. Thank you.
Spoon?
I'm not clear whether this is to, this limits the VSBA's to providing the training and education itself, or for finding ways that it could get done, like working with the state to start courses in community colleges.
The resolution doesn't designate what way the training, it's just asking for training for board members. How that's being accomplished, it doesn't spell it out exactly.
Well, that's the recruiting part. And then there's the training part. So this isn't saying that we're expecting VSBA to do the training, although it could, but that would be a heck of a burden. But it could perhaps find ways that the training could be provided otherwise.
The be it resolved portion does not specifically say what way it's going to be or what way it's not going to be. It says it wants us to do training for board members.
Well, then, informally, how would you interpret that now? Do you feel you have the latitude to have college courses or some other route created?
You want to speak to that, Nicole?
So this is the first I've heard about college courses, but we regularly connect with consultants and other experts who have subject matter expertise and make training and professional development opportunities available through those individuals. It's a creative option for us to think about the use of community colleges as a resource in the school board development arena. So I do not view this as in any way limiting, but encouraging the VSBA to be actively looking for ways to support school board members in these particular ways.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I assume you're ready. Scott? Scott, could you go to the mic and speak louder, please?
Scott Richardson, Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union.
You should, when that cow's out of hand, come on, man.
So the first whereas is objectionable to me because of the way that it states that a board member's responsibilities are for its town's children. And it goes directly against much of the efforts of the last few years. And so I would encourage the SBA board to, go back to the drawing table with this one, or at least amend that first whereas.
Well, what we're voting on is a be it resolved portion. If it doesn't say something in the be it resolved portion that's objectionable to you, then what we're proposing to you is that there. The whereases are just someone's thoughts on why they ought to convince us that we ought to vote in the affirmative for the be it resolved part.
Okay, then, that's fine, then I would recommend to the voting representatives present to vote against this, even though the resolution board is suggesting it. And, so as to be able to fix that.
Okay. So we're getting a lot of people coming up. I'd like you now to go to the mics. So let's go to the mics. If you have, anybody else has something to say to this, please go to the microphone. I'll allow one more comment from the floor and then we're at the mics. Yes.
I'm Jackie Kelly. I'd like to call for the question.
All right, she's calling the question. I don't think there was any more discussion anyway because I didn't see a flush of the mics there. So we don't need to vote on that. I'm just going to pass on that. So we can vote on it and then keep moving that way. That seems cumbersome. So all those in favor of accepting the committee's report to pass this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. All right, it passes. Ayes have it. So we're at number 11.
11 is from the Newark Street School Board, and it's the committee's recommendation is do not pass the resolution 11 on school safety security. The VSBA board recommends that the membership do not pass. The concern with this approach could lead to districts authorizing teachers to carry weapons and or requiring it. We don't think that's a good idea.
I'll
The
accept
board
it.
didn't think it was a good idea.
I'll accept a motion to accept the committee's report to not pass this. You got Leon.
Yeah.
With a motion. We have a second to that. Jim Salzgiver with a second. All right, now we'll have some discussion of this. If you wanted to speak to this, please go to the microphone. So we have Celeste. You got a minute, Celeste.
Thank you.
Are you going a no or a yes on this one?
I'm on
A yes here on this side.
the committee's recommendation is to not pass. I'm against that recommendation.
No.
I'm a no. I'm speaking for one of the authors who couldn't be here today to speak for herself due to a sick child. So, she says, I just wanted the board to understand our resolution was not created with the intent of arming teachers, simply to keep our security options and decisions directed by the locals who know our schools and facilities, the student body and the community culture the best. Montpelier doesn't know what we need, and this was made very clear last year. Casey Talbot, King to be School Board.
I know that the issue is around weapons in school. I certainly understand weapons. I was in the infantry in Vietnam, and I know that they are destructive and horrible, and I wouldn't want to see any in our schools. But also, I do feel that each school district should decide upon its own level of fear. And because a lot of times the fear begins to morph into paranoia, and it's very hard sometimes to tell the difference. Sometimes you get one or two people screaming, and you think that it represents a lot of people, and maybe not. So there are so many different kinds of safety things that can and are done, and so many reasons for using some and not others, and so many different levels of sense of safety, etc. That I just feel this certainly should be a decision of individual school districts.
All right, seeing that there's nobody else at the podium, I'm super ready to vote. All those. Now, thank you. We are now voting with your phones, your devices, whatever you have to have. So we're going to switch over to that. So everybody get prepared to do that. I'll give you just a second to get your screens back up, do whatever you need to do. on number 11.
But it's still
So you-
one.
All right, I'm gonna give them the mic. They're gonna walk you through this.
Voting closed at 37 minutes.
Yes, so if you're on your smartphones, there should be a small refresh arrow. If you press that, you should see the ballot. When you press into it, update for number 11. If you are on a tablet, you simply need to scan in and then refresh in the top right, and then you should see the current ballot. So I will be walking around. Anyone that has questions around the refresh or doesn't see the ballot updating, just maybe put a hand up and I can come by and help.
One over there.
Okay, so we're not voting, you don't have to figure, we're not voting, I'm just telling you that, this is if you vote yes, that means you're voting to accept the committee's report to do not pass. So a yes means no. So if you want this to pass, then vote no. How's that for clear, bud? So you guys have technology questions or questions about what we're voting on? Can't help it. I do know a joke about a Maine farmer. So as the votes come in, they're being tallied on the screen over here. Soon as we make sure that everybody whose tech issues have been resolved, we'll declare the voting over. We did this last year, it does go faster once we get the.
I'm not official, but.
If you're experiencing a tech issue, please make sure you identify yourself so these guys can help you out.
Stayed on one, stayed on one, standard.
Has everybody voted? Yeah, we lose people. So everybody's voted? No? David, you haven't voted? So if you haven't voted, get your hand up so we know that you haven't voted. Yeah, he's always giving us problems. All right, so we got in the interest of moving this along, I think we might just take a quick voice vote because I think we're coming in at an 80% there on the screen. We have a few people left out. So very quickly, as we're resolving this, I'm just going to ignore the results on the screen. We're going to go back to a voice vote. If you, aye, thank you, means that you support the committee's recommendation to do not pass. So all those in favor of accepting the committee's report to do not pass, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. So moving on, we're at question number 12. We have one abstention there. Okay, thank you. A couple abstentions. Thank you.
All right, number 12. Committee recommendations do not pass. The resolution 12 moratorium on new legislation from Rockingham. The VSBA board recommends the membership do not pass to prevent the VSBA from pursuing useful changes to education law. The VSBA has a resolution opposed to unfunded mandates. We also have a resolution calling for adequate staffing at the AOE to support the current initiatives. So some of the things they're asking for in this resolution already exist. And the reason, the discussion on why it was recommended do not pass, remember a year or two ago, the legislature, in their infinite wisdom, in the final days, put that, whatever it was called, so we allowable growth, and we had to go back to the legislature and get them to change that. If this resolution was in place, we wouldn't be allowed to go advocate to get the screw ups by the screw ups the legislature did to get them fixed in the next session so they don't do positive harm to us. That's the reason why they were asking for this resolution to do not pass.
So I will entertain a motion to accept the committee's report to do not pass. We got Amy McMullen in the back from Windsor. Jim Salzgiver again. All right, for a second, David, go ahead.
The four towns in Wyndham Northeast, Athens.
Hey, David, could you speak to the mic, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. The four towns in Wyndham Northeast, Athens, Grafton, Rockingham, Westminster, and also the Union High School supported this at the edge table, even though the maker is Rockingham. And as much as Clarence was trying to give us a cogent explanation for the SBA's position, we missed the point, which is that we would like to have enough breathing room to evaluate the effect of legislation which has already been passed before we go ahead and do more legislating. I, for one, can draw a straight line between the effects of Act 60 and the outcomes that we're dealing with now with Act 46. And I predict that the outcomes of Act 46 will likely be similar.
Seeing that nobody else is up there ready to speak, I assume we're ready to vote on this. We'll try this electronically again. Are you gentlemen ready? No, we are not ready. We are not going to vote electronically. So we're going to go back to the old-fashioned method here. So if an aye means that you are accepting the committee's report to do not pass. So all those in favor of accepting the committee's report to do not pass, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. Number 13, Clarence.
Number 13, yes, our committee recommends that pass. It was subsequently withdrawn by the school district due to similarities with resolutions submitted by the school district. Resolution 13 on cost containment withdrawn due to duplicate resolution 1. You don't need to vote on that. The board itself withdrew it. 14, be it resolved that both the committee recommendation take no position. Requested submitting board to consider change to the wording of the resolution, no change received. 14. This was the changes were received. Be it resolved that the follow legislation of the United States Congress to enact a rational policy to keep our students safe from guns and violence. So we recognize that we live in a rural area with long tradition of hunting and sporting like use of guns. We respect the culture. Goes on to ban it carefully. The wording is in line with the current law that was passed, and the committee took no position on it. On 14, it's Conic and Green. This is the resolution.
So I will entertain a motion either for or against this so we can talk about it. For or against it? Or just discuss it? Okay. So we put the motion on the table to discuss the resolution. Do I have a second to that? Got floor with a second. If you wish to speak to this, please go to the mics. Seeing nobody who's going to the mics, I guess we're ready to vote on this. So I really want people to go to the mics on this, because if we're starting to get into this one at a time, again, we need to keep things moving here. So if you do want to speak to this, the yes is to the right, the no is to the left. If you're right in the middle, I guess you don't know.
So you have a motion on the floor, which is only to discuss it, so am I allowed to talk to the resolution?
Yes, please.
I'm gonna support this. The VSBA, resolution board took no position. I'm gonna support it, even though, it's really not the VSBA's role to tell the US Congress what to do, but, I think we gotta do something. And so I'm suggesting that we stick our necks out and say, this is what we think.
Ogden, I'm the chair of the board that proposed this. I do want to correct one statement, which I think Jim Salsky already also corrected. The committee asked the Congress Green to revise its proposed resolution, and it did revise it. And I want to speak in favor of it for a different reason, which is that I think it's appropriate occasion to thank the legislature for doing something.
Spoon, could you go to the mic, please? Anybody else has something to say, please go to the mic now. If you're not up there, when Spoon gets done, I'm just gonna close this off and we'll vote on it. So if you intend to keep discussing this, please go to the mic.
Make a similar argument that this too is an overreaction, it's almost reactionary. You can make laws about schools and guns, then you'd make laws about schools and hospitals. And you'd make laws about guns in hospitals, or guns and sports events, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You would have to make a law for everywhere. When in fact, the problem is not the guns, it's the desire of so many people to use them. And no matter how many laws you make, no matter how many laws you make, if we have a society where people have a desire to use them, there is no protection. So I think it would be a much better resolution to have the government considering why there is so much violence in this country.
Oh, it was right on time, Spoon. Good move. All right, so seeing nobody else is up there. So our parliamentarian here has informed me that we need a motion on whether, to actually vote on this. Is that it, Sue? How would you word that? So,
Well, so you never voted on the motion to discuss, you just went ahead and discussed, which is fine. But if you're gonna vote on anything, there ought to be something other than a motion to discuss.
so Dan,
I'm gonna make a motion that we pass, resolution number 14.
all right, we have a motion to pass it from Dan MacArthur. Jim Salzgiver, the second on that? Okay. So I guess we have to open this back up, see if there's any further discussion. Hopefully there's not.
Probably what you should do is declare the motion to discuss out of order, so you can take the second motion. You can't have two motions on the floor at once, right, Sue?
Right.
I declare that first motion out of order to discuss. I am so willing to take advice in this chair. So we already have that, the other motion, Clarence, so we good? So I keep going on this now? All right, so, so this is a motion to pass. So a aye vote means that you want to pass this resolution. A no vote means you don't want to pass this resolution. Yes, Lou?
I have a question for clarification. The way this resolution is worded, this is not directing VSBA to do anything. Is that correct? Be it resolved, we're asking Congress and the legislature to do something.
Right, it's, well, it says call the Vermont legislature to further explore safety measures.
So I would interpret that as the VSBA through its staff or board would need to follow through on that. Not every resolution specifically says VSBA staff shall. So if you look at resolution number 16, the General Assembly should examine laws. So it's the organization making that ask that would happen through your agents, either your staff or your board.
Yes. No, the board itself, the VSBA, took no position on it. If you say aye to this, you are saying you want this resolution to pass. The VSBA will adopt it. If you say no, then it doesn't pass. The VSBA does not adopt it. Okay? Any questions about that? Yes, sir.
The author clarifies whether there's any exclusion, because the way it's worded, it's saying none of these items can be sold anywhere in the US, but there's legitimate sales that occur to military, law enforcement. So the way it's worded, it's not excluding any of the practical uses or the uses that are in place now.
So they're asking you, your board, you guys wrote this, right? So do you want to speak to answer that? Because that question is directed at you.
I'm not quite sure what the basis for the question is. I'm looking at the, I'm looking at the first paragraph on page 38. So sure here. And, is this language somewhere else?
It's what's on the screen.
Should not be sold. We would interpret that to mean they should not be issued. If that's the case.
Well, there's manufacturers that sell weaponry to the military, to the law enforcement. This is suggesting should not be sold, but not be exclusionary for lawful purposes or military needs.
We were looking at the end recipient, not a sale to the military.
All right, so if we want to,
We are not opposing what we're talking about. We're talking about sales to private citizens.
so if we have further discussion, let's go to the mics on this, okay? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm on the no side, for a couple of reasons, but one, I think that last paragraph, is poorly worded, leaves a lot up to interpretation, and so for me, it's not clear, and or shall put those types of things, casual for a resolution, so for that reason.
All right, seeing nobody else at the mic, I assume we're ready to vote on this. So, so a yes means you want to accept this resolution, aye means you want to accept the resolution, a no means, are you guys ready electronically? Is this, everybody ready electronically? We'll give this one more shot here. And then we're just going back to the old fashioned way here. All right, so get your devices on. So you vote yes, you want to accept this resolution. A no means that you want to reject it. So go ahead and vote. If you are having trouble, please get your hand up right now or stand up or do something so these guys can get over and help you as quick as possible. Again, if you're having trouble, make sure you get your hand up, stand up, do something. Right? Hands up if you need help or stand up. Resolutions need 60% to pass, okay, so I don't think we mentioned that yet. They need 60% to pass. Anybody who hasn't voted yet? We'll get someone over to you. Well, the other thing, we do have the technology, we actually record how you vote with this, so your vote's being recorded, so this is not like an I vote where nobody knows how you voted. Here we do know how you voted. Since you're representatives of an area, we've figured that was very appropriate. We all on board now? Everybody's voted? And it's actually not going to drive this. It's not going to pass. I don't think one vote's going to get us up 8%.
Question was that, the first vote we did, there were 51 responses.
Oh,
So it was a practice vote.
there was 29 who registered to come in. So we may be less than that now. We don't know who's. So are we set? Has everybody got a recorded vote?
No, no.
So we've decided here at the table, we're going to do a voice vote for the rest of the meeting. All right, we're all voted, so it needs 60% for that to pass. It did not receive 60%, so the motion, motion is defeated. So for resolution number 15.
Resolution 15. Resolution 15 is consolidation savings Westminster. The VSBA board recommends the membership do not pass. Act 46 requires the AOE to collect and analyze the data required regarding educational opportunities and operational efficiencies, transparency and accountability, and other issues from the Newburgh district to report annually to the legislature. It's not clear how the VSBA would be able to monitor how savings are being used to lower taxes, given the different sources and uses in the ed fund.
So I will accept the motion to accept the VSBA board's recommendation to do not pass this. We got Diane, Chris, and Glidden, and Leon. All right. So if you want to speak to this, please step to the microphone like David has. Go ahead, David.
Okay, thank you. David Clark. I represent the minister on the VFUHS board. And I'm also on the River Valley Tech Center board and chair the WNESU board. And this resolution was written by my homies at the Westminster Town School Board. It probably would have been much more effective if they had simply said, be it resolved that the VSBA requests the Agency of Education to conduct financial analysis of cost savings in these merged districts. This analysis be published and forwarded to the legislature in all Vermont school districts. In no way does this language ask anything of the Vermont school So, once again, I appreciate the VSBA Resolutions Committee hard work on trying to analyze it, but I'm going to suggest this is another miss in terms of that analysis.
Dan?
I believe I interpret what David just said as asking people to vote no on the motion that's on the floor right now. And I am also going to speak in opposition to the motion and in favor of the resolution, because I believe, like David, that it should be transparent what is happening financially based on patches of Act 46, and that would be good information for all of us to have. So I'm suggesting voting no this time around, and then another motion presumably would be made to pass resolution number 15.
Any other discussion real quick? Get to the mic. If you have something to say now, start moving towards the mic. As soon as Martha is done, I'm going to call for a vote here. If nobody else is at the mic.
If the result was her only about analysis, I would agree with you. But the result clause asks the SBA to advocate that all savings be used for property tax relief. And I think that's not right. We're trying to increase opportunities for our students as well as being more efficient for our taxpayers.
Okay, so we're ready to vote since nobody else is at the microphone. So an I would say you accept the VSBA's board's recommendation to do not pass this. So all those in favor of accepting the board's position of do not pass, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. All right, I would like to see a hand vote on this one. I think we're just close enough here. So those in favor of accepting the board's recommendation to do not pass, please raise your hand.
Me too. 18.
So if you are against this, please raise your hand.
Yep.
Motion succeeds 18 to 8. So it's defeated. No, it's not defeated, it's passed. The resolution doesn't move on. God, this is does not pass. All right, so we're at number 16, I believe.
16, committee recommendation, take no position. Committee
Hang on, he's got a logic here.
Committee said not to take a pass. The supervisory union, number 16, the VSBA board recommends to the membership that it pass. This was sent back and corrected and resubmitted. That's why the change from take no position to pass.
So I will entertain a motion to pass this as recommended by the VSBA board. We got floor with the first. And I forgot your name, I'm sorry. From Burlington. Yes. We got Kathy. Did you get that, Sue? Okay. Any discussion? We need you at the mic if there's any discussion. Seeing none, I assume we're ready to vote. So if you vote aye, that means you want to go with the board's position of that this should be passed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, say no. All right, motion passes. So number 17.
17, debt in merged districts. VSBA recommends that the membership do not pass. It's not clear what mechanism would be used or is being recommended here. Debt does not drive tax rate increases. Educational spending per pupil does. With the assumption of debt comes the asset. So when you're merging, if they're coming with debt, it's because they increase the asset that you're getting too. So there is a relationship between the two as the discussion held at the board. It's not purely a debt question, it's a debt and asset question. Is that a fair representation of what we discussed? Okay. So the recommendation is do not pass for those reasons.
So I'll accept the motion, to go with the, board's recommendation to do not pass. Jim Salzgiver, for the first, we have a second. All right, that took a while. So we had Diane, Kirsten Glidman with a second. All right, any discussion, please go to the microphone. Seeing none, if you vote, aye, you are accepting the board's position that this should not be passed. So all those in favor of accepting the board's position that this does not get passed, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We got one opposed. Any abstentions? A few abstentions. So the ayes have it. Resolution 18.
18, the committee recommendation is passed. This is civil discourse. VSBA board recommends that the membership pass. We need a motion to accept the report, and then there will be an amendment offered from the floor, I believe. So start with the motion.
All right. So Dan.
We pass the resolution as presented.
All right, Dan. We have a motion from Dan MacArthur. Do we have a second? Kevin Campbell from CSU. All right, Coach.
I'd like to,
Speak right into the mic, Coach.
I'd like to offer an amendment to number 18 on civil discourse. It's a very short, therefore, be it further resolved. We as elected officials in the state of Vermont hereby call upon those in law enforcement at the local, state, and federal levels to make the investigation of any crimes perpetrated against our fellow elected officials a top priority. We ask that all levels in law enforcement take such crimes seriously and that they work diligently to identify and prosecute all those who would attempt to subvert and interfere with the political process by means of violence, threats of violence, or by other forms of harassment, coercion, and intimidation. So Kevin, well, I just want to clarify something first. So you propose on keeping all the existing language and adding that, what you just read? Correct. Okay. So do we have does anybody want to second his amendment? Do we have a second from Leon? So now we can discuss the amendment. Kevin, you're up there at the podium, so I'll give you another minute if you want to say something. Basically, with everything that's been in the news of late, this has been a personal affront to all of us in this room. Not just Kaya, not just the other representatives. Any of us could be affected by this level of coercion and violence that's been taking place. And, I know some of us here, have been, maybe by news articles and things of that sort that, attempted to be intimidated. But I think we need to stand together, and be very clear in our resolve that this is unacceptable behavior in Vermont. So that's where I'm at. So thank you.
Kevin, you made some copies of this?
Yes.
Are they around? This is a lot of language. I'm gonna get this on the screen because there's a lot of words here before we vote on this. Carrie? All right, so this is going to take a second. We can discuss this as we move along here, but I'm not going to take a vote before we have those words up on the screen so everybody can see this. This is a significant amendment to this, and I don't feel comfortable going any further. Taking a vote on this before we all see it. Spoon, you wish to speak? Oh, Kevin stole the mic from you.
Once again,
This is another one of those general things. Every person in this country should have equal protection. The laws are there. It may be that our government chooses to put less effort in assisting some than others or prosecuting some than others. But the laws are there. They are the same for everybody. And I don't see why one person or some people, and then you begin deciding which people are more important than others. And in a way, this is what this is trying to do, is isolate, say some people are more important than others. Should there be heavier penalties for attacking a doctor or attacking a teacher, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? We are all equal. We're all under the same laws. We should simply insist that our government protect every citizen equally.
Again, it's the perfect timing, your time's up. Anybody else want to speak to this? Again, I want to get these words up so everybody can see this before we move forward with this. I think there's copies that have been distributed to tables, so some people are reading it. There's a lot of language there. Go ahead, you want to speak to this?
Yeah.
Speak right into Mark, Joe. Mike, Joe.
I don't really, I'm not really speaking for or against the motion itself. I'm curious as to why this is an amendment to a motion, and it's fairly similar from the motion that was made. I support what you say, but I think this should be its own resolution rather than an amendment to something that's not the same. I'm asking why it's done procedurally.
Okay, before Kevin answers that, the words are now up on the screen. And this is in addition to what's already down in your handbook there. This is addition to the current be it resolved. Kevin, you want to answer the question, please?
Another part of civil discourse. That's, in order to try to not create an entirely new resolution, it seemed that the discussion around civil discourse and civility in general is what the original resolution was speaking to. So it seemed at the time that this was the best way.
Thank you, Coach. Any other discussion on this? So now what we're going to do is we're going to vote on the amendment. We're not voting on the resolution itself. We're going to vote to add this to the resolution. So if you vote aye, you're in favor of adding this to the resolution. All those in favor of adding this amendment to the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
No.
I think the ayes have that. Any abstentions?
No.
All right, so we're going to now have a discussion on the resolution with this language added. So anybody who has something to say, please head to the mics. So now we're discussing the resolution itself as amended. So if there's any discussion, please head to the mic. Okay, so if you vote aye, you're voting to go with the VSBA board and pass this resolution as amended. Yes, Neil.
Before I run to my concern right now is that if we're only adopting this piece of language right here, there's a reference to such crimes that is now previously undefined. And so I think we're missing a definition that would be sorely needed in order for us to really understand what we're doing. Well, it was added to the existing resolution, but the existing resolution doesn't reference anything about crimes. So I'm not sure what such crimes we are going after if we're picking just this piece out here and attaching it to the existing resolution.
Well, the descriptor would be the paragraph.
If you have something to say, please go to Mike. Coach, we could run the mic to you. We're going to get you in a second.
If we added the paragraph ahead of the one that is the therefore let it be further resolved, which would be the end paragraph, this one speaks to the crimes themselves or the incidences themselves. So this would be the explanation of the therefore let it be further resolved.
Okay. Evan, you want to go to the mic? Yeah, if you're going to make it. Go. You go ahead and do it from there.
I'll just move to amend the motion on the table to add that.
So yeah, I need to know how you want it. So be more specific. What you want to change on there?
Going to add the paragraph that is referencing to the
I'm not following. Maybe I'm only not. So, yeah. So this is how. Right.
Adding that paragraph.
Oh.
I'm just trying to help another Kevin out.
Okay. So we have two paragraphs now. Now I'm coming up to speed.
Through technology, the second paragraph that Coach just talked about on the screen, that's not part of the motion on the table. So I'm moving to amend the motion on the table to add that first paragraph on the screen so that the issue that was brought up about referencing the crimes is addressed.
So this one is in the motion already. This one's a brand new one. No, we've already passed the amendment, so we're back to the resolution itself. So he's making a motion to amend the resolution.
Looking for a second.
Looking for a second. We got a second from the floor. All right, now we can discuss this. Everybody take a chance to read this. I'll give you a second to digest all this. So I'm not going to pull a vote on this one real quick because it's going to take a second. All right, everybody's had a chance to read that. Neil, go ahead.
So I think the additional paragraph helps a little bit, but we still got terms referencing such harassment. I would make the recommendation that we simply strike such harassment from that first paragraph. Or just such, just strike the word such.
So this is the such according to the top paragraph.
I will draw my.
Friendly amendment.
If the chair says it doesn't, nobody objects.
If nobody objects, I'll let
I
it
don't
go.
think so. I don't think so.
So, right. No, no, you're staying by this, you're okay with taking out the word such. Right? This word here. No one has any objections. Let's do that. If you don't like my end running parliamentary procedure, then call me on it and we'll do it the right way. Just shoot this down and come up with another. All right, so we will withdraw that word such, since no one seems to have any objections. Go ahead, ma'am.
Fitzgerald, South Burlington. One question of clarification. You implied that the board has approved this resolution with this amendment. Is that accurate?
The board has recommended that the resolution in the book be passed. The board has no position on this. The body will decide on this now.
And just for, I guess, just for point of clarification, I appreciate the intent of the amendment to this resolution. I do think it fundamentally changes the resolution that was reviewed by our board. So I don't know how our delegate is going to vote here today, but the way our process ran, we went to review these at a regular meeting and took action as a board. So an amendment like this, I'm not sure if we will be able to take action in this stage, and I just wanted to share that with the
Anybody else want to speak to this? Now we're talking about the amendment to the resolution. We are not talking, we're just talking about that first paragraph, whether we want to add that. And any other discussion on this? I assume we're ready to vote then. So what we're voting on is adding this as an amendment, striking the first paragraph and adding this. No, not striking. So we have a third paragraph. All right. Yeah, no, so there'll be three paragraphs. It will, in total, be three paragraphs. All right, those in favor of adding this amendment to the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
A little louder that time. So I'm going to look for a voice hand raised on this one. So if you're in favor of adding this amendment, please raise your hands. Come up all over the place. I got 18. Yeah, keep them up. Yeah, leave them up.
Well, they went down to.
We got two of them. Those against, please raise your hand. Guess we just have some loud noise.
Wow.
All right, so that amendment has been added to the resolution. We're back at the resolution. The resolution will be the first paragraph that's in your handbook already, and additionally adding these two. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. So those in favor of passing this resolution, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. No. I'm going to say that this resolution has passed. The ayes have it. So resolution proposal number 19. This comes from the committee as well.
Number 19, the School Board Association adopts the following requirements for appointing representatives to the commission. This is about the new healthcare law in the state. The committee's recommendation is to pass Resolution 19, statewide bargaining process. The VSBA board recommends that the membership pass. I would request the chair, once you get a motion, that I be allowed to speak first on the issue.
Okay. We have a motion. The VSBA board recommends to pass this. Jim, motion to pass. Okay. We got Jim Solskiver. We have a second by Don Collins. Clarence, go ahead.
At this point, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion to delete December And insert November is the meeting where the commissioners will be appointed. This is just a little technical thing to keep us in compliance with the law and when these people need to be appointed to get the job done.
Do we have a second on that amendment? The floor with the second. Any discussion on that? So we're going to vote to add, strike December and add November, just an amendment. We're not voting on the resolution itself. So all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? It has it. So now, back to the resolution at hand with the amendment. This is a little different for us. This is a big change in how the state operates, and we wanted to make sure our membership was good with what we're proposing at the VSBA board level.
So assuming that the members approve this resolution, this evening, an email will go out tomorrow with an application form for those who are interested in serving on the bargaining commission. And applications will be due November 1st. So the folks will have about 2 weeks to complete it. It's an easy application, but it speaks to each of the statutory requirements and the criteria in the resolution. So we have assuming that it is passed, there's a process underway that be open for applications tomorrow morning.
Any questions or discussion? Everyone accept it? Go ahead.
What's the criteria for selection?
Right, yeah, it's right. Yeah, just above the number 40 says criteria for selection. Let me read it to you.
Well, I'm really interested in understanding how those decisions will be made.
The board will pick those. VSBA board.
I think one other thing that might be helpful to the membership is the winter newsletter just came out, and Nicole won't blow her own horn, but she has a very good article that details this procedure all the way through, and it would do every member to read it, maybe even reread it, because this is a major change on things that are going to happen in this state that isn't statute. This procedure is just how we're going to comply with the law that was passed.
Any other questions, comments?
Pat Murray from the Essex Westford School Board. We had several questions in the board. We get clarification on the voting process for these. These are, I believe that we have the answer, but I just want to make sure that everyone here was aware of that. Each supervisory union or district gets one vote, and this is not based on population, correct? But because this is impacting specifically budgets for larger districts like our own, that budgetary impact would be substantially larger. So we would be curious about equal representation based on the size of the district rather than one individual vote. Normally, while that would be something here, we're not typically in these resolutions impacting directly the budgetary amounts for each individual district. And then there was another question. And yes, how is Vermont and NEA ratifying their
There's, and this is a new law. There are some things that there aren't some real cut and dried answers to your questions right at the moment. I don't know. The law says the NEA is going to appoint 4 people. They're going to come up with their process for getting them just like we are. And the 5th one, we were charged with, correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, but we were charged with coming up with a process to do this. That's what this resolution does, so we're open and transparent about it. The statute is very clear on, we're supposed to appoint these people by a certain date, and they're supposed to do things by a certain date. The ratification process, Nicole, maybe you could speak to that. Is that in statute, other than that we have one?
Now, so the law directs the VSBA and the NEA essentially to develop a ratification process. I was supposed to meet with the NEA last week and I had the flu, so I don't know what their process is. We're meeting again next week to talk about our data collection efforts. So everyone's been keeping their cards fairly close to their vest in terms of the process that's being used. This is a process that was developed by the VSBA Resolutions Committee and then the board. If the members have a different process they want to bring forward for consideration, that's what this meeting's all about.
Thank you.
So just a clarification too, it's not just the NEA, there's that other union that's involved too, has a little bit of a say so, right?
But my presumption is they work together on a ratification process. So there's two issues. There's appointment to the commission, and then there's a ratification process. The law directs the VSBA to do both things. The ratification process that's being proposed is that every SU or SD has a vote. I think the concern that's being raised is if the financial impacts are not equal, is that fair? So that's for you all to talk about.
If you want to speak to this, please go up to the mic so we know who's lined up and ready to go.
I've had a lot of mixed emotions on this whole healthcare issue for a long time. On the one hand, on the positive side of it, talking to a legislator just the other day, there may be legislation that will attempt to put all public employees in the state, from the newest guy walking into a public works job to the governor, all on the same health plan. And as a way of resolving a lot of issues. So if the governor wants to cut healthcare is going to be his own as well, his or her own as well. And it's also seen on the positive side as an important step towards universal single-payer healthcare in the state. So on that side, it's a positive. On the negative side, if these things don't materialize, I have this feeling that at some point the teachers are going to jettison the NEA, and we are going to probably end up seeing the first statewide teacher strike, as we've seen in Arizona, West Virginia, Kentucky, and other places, which again has its upside and downside, but it's going to be, if it ever comes to that, it'll be very divisive through entire communities.
As the president of the board here, I've made the executive decision, since we're running ahead of time, that I'm going to go to 2-minute comment period. So you were at 1:30 there. So you got 2 minutes.
I'm Colleen McKinnon, and Champlain Valley. I have a comment and a question. My comment is I'm in favor of this resolution, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness put into the process for selecting commission members. It seems that having served on a number of negotiating committees over the years, the healthcare issue has been a big stumbling block for us, and we have always felt like it was our little board negotiating with the Vermont NEA when it came to healthcare. So pulling this away from our individual boards, I think, is an excellent move for the state. As far as the commission goes, I just want some clarification on the appointments. The terms are 6 years, and I understand that it's a staggered entry with 2, 4, and 6. And by employer, I'm understanding that to be school board members, so clarify me if I'm wrong about that. And then my second question would be, if someone's term ends and they are on commission, does that mean that their term on the commission ends? So if I could have some clarification about that. And I'll just give an aside. In the past, when we've had negotiating committees where we've gone multi-year, and we've had someone who's been an effective member of the negotiating committee, their term ending up on the board, our board has chosen to have someone who's left the board continue to represent the board throughout the term of the negotiation. So I'm clear, understood
So the law does not have any requirements other than an appointee of the School Boards Association has an understanding of healthcare, an understanding of employer-employee relationships, and a demonstrated willingness to work collaboratively. The criteria that we're putting forward in addition to that statutory requirement does not require someone to be an active school board member. So, I don't think it's a requirement to have a current school board member, although we are asking for experience on the negotiations council and willingness to participate in training. So I do not believe I know there's discussions about other expertise that would need to be at the table. What we're putting before you is what the law says and what the additional criteria may be. I would make the case that continuity on the bargaining team is critical to the extent people are willing to serve. We should support them completing their term, irrespective of whether they started as a school board member or no longer.
Thank you. Dave Clark, Wyndham Northeast. I just want to say that based on my 30 years to involuntary absences of board service, I can say from the bottom of my heart, this is a job I would not want to have. More power to those who are willing to take it on. I do need to take a shorter look back in time and just point out that last year, this time in this room, I made the comment that statewide contracts open the door to statewide strikes. That's something that I think people should just be mindful of. And there's one other comment here, which I want to make, and that's based on a comment that Stu made earlier. And that is that I have a strong suspicion, and it's no more than that, that once we have a statewide health contract for teachers, there's absolutely no reason why we can't merge that with the statewide health contract for state employees. And that opens up a very interesting dynamic because teachers have a far better experience rating than state employees do, which means our costs are cheaper. You merge those two units and you end up picking up a very significant piece of Bill Scott's action. And not only are you picking up the governor's action on health costs, but you're putting an additional target on your back with regards to the notion that schools cannot contain costs. And believe me, you will hear about it should that come to pass.
Deb, Liam?
Leon Johnson from the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union. I don't know where this needs to go, but we have done a lot of negotiating in the South, and we have decided and made it an issue that all of our negotiations took place in open meetings. And this was a subject of the conversation that the original meeting that we had down south that we wanted to ask the Mayor Prince to make sure that we all for this contract negotiations to take place, and membership and so forth. But we feel real strong that it needs to be done in an open meeting format because it's he said, she said, they said, them said, so whatever, it's always a problem. But when it's open and open to everybody to be forecast, you can always focus when it's necessary to put somebody at a disadvantage, one side or another. You can ask for a 15 or 30 minute talking period and vice versa. But you do need to discuss the items as an open meeting format.
I just have to make one comment at this point. I might personally agree with the speaker. That's nice to do it. I've negotiated open session myself, but the Vermont Supreme Court said otherwise. It's statute. We can't force that issue. Period. It's negotiable, but if we can't come to terms, we can't do it. Period.
Jackie Kelly,
So I only see one other speaker up. If no one else has stepped up to the podium by the time she's done, I'll determine that we're ready to vote. Go ahead, Jackie.
Jackie Kelly, Southwest CDC. Our constituency board meeting members on Monday night said the same thing that Leon said. That open meeting laws and film local meeting laws apply in this instance. Last year, we had the same question by the NEA stating that the open meeting laws did not reflect that what you just proposed, that it couldn't happen. And we checked and it could. So it does resolve that matter, but it's very, very important, and we found that it was more productive and nicer.
Thank you, Jackie.
Pat Murray, Essex Westford. I would like to propose an amendment at the end of the section under electronic ballot. I would like to add the language, each district or SU's vote shall be weighted based upon that district or SU's employee FTE.
Read that again, please.
Sure. At the end of the electronic ballot section, each district or SU's vote shall be weighted based upon that district's employee FTE.
I'll have you read it again, just a second. Okay, read it again.
Each district or SU's vote shall be weighted based upon that district's employee FTE.
Do we have? Is some? Yeah. Do we have a second on that motion? Amendment, I'm sorry. We have a second on that? All right, so now we can discuss that. You wanna, yeah, I'll give you 2 minutes if you wanna talk about that.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, this is largely again based on what I asked during the questioning process, which is simply that it's clear that the resolution would directly impact the district or SU's budgetary and budgetary results. So we feel that there should be some reflective representation that the larger districts employ substantially more employees, in some cases hundreds of FTE hours, would have proportional vote on the end result of the negotiations.
Thank you. If you wish to speak to this, please come to the microphone. So we're talking about the amendment that is in red at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, you made a motion to second it. So we're talking about the amendment to the resolution. If I don't see bodies up there, I'll assume we're ready to vote. Mary Kate, go ahead.
Mary Kate Kelly, I appreciate the amendment. I would also point out that for smaller districts, it has equal impact because it's still a similar percentage of their budget.
Just a tiny detail here, I think if you're going to have.
Identify yourself, sir.
Dan MacArthur, Marlboro. If the amendment's gonna say each SU/SD above, it should say the same where it currently says district below, because that's not gonna be clear what district refers to.
See what he's saying.
Point of concern is who seconded this motion?
It's Kathy.
Did I get a second? Yes. Burlington. Kathy from Burlington, second. Do we have a second? time's not running, so that's good. So I'll start your time here in a second. Just a semantic thing. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm concerned about the realities of the tax base for the smaller districts and smaller supervisory unions. We don't have the kind of, tax base to be able to say that it costs us less, or it costs us more because of our FTE. The other is we know going into this, we were opposed to the idea. Because we don't have a whole lot that we can offer our teachers. Health insurance is huge. If they have to then pay more for health insurance, they're gonna push for an increase in salary, which frankly they have. And that will raise the cost of our education in our area and raise our taxes. And the governor's gonna yell at us that, look, we lowered it for you and now here you are raising it, you irresponsible board member. I would ask you to realize that small rural districts, and some of us are still small and rural, even if we are combined, have a very different reality around the tax base and the cost of educating our students and keeping highly qualified, experienced teachers in our classrooms.
Nobody else is up there to speak. I assume we're ready to go here. All right, so we're voting on the amendment, and it's in red there. We're not voting on the resolution. We're just voting on the amendment. All those in favor of adopting the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Nay. Nays have it. That amendment's rejected, so we're back to the resolution itself. Is there any further discussion? All right, I assume we're ready to vote. So if you vote aye, you're going with the VSBA's board's recommendation to pass this resolution. All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Resolution's passed. Wow, that's absolutely incredible, folks. I've never seen that. Claire?
I'd like to thank everyone for their participation in the resolution report. This was not an easy task for the assembly, and it was done respectfully and without a lot of name calling. So I think we all need to pat yourself on the back. We got a lot of hard work done easily, and we're still going to make it to the reception. Thank you.
I didn't see any name calling, but we do have other business here, but so we're on to other business. Martha and Don, do you have something to say that is not related to other business? Go ahead, Martha.
I think I found it was really helpful to have the video and to review the video before we review the resolution as a board. And I expect that contribute to the fact that this
Thank you, Martha. Don, do you have something to say?
Mine's, other business.
Okay, so under other business, go ahead, Don. You want to step up to the mic, or I'll hand you mine? And
I want to stand right here and say that you may be just a country boy, just a farm boy, but you've done a great job leading us. I think you
after that, let's move on. Anybody have anything else to say under other business?
You don't wonder why I wasn't standing, because it's taking me too long to get up and down, but I also didn't want to do it too much. That door is only so big, and Gino's got to get through it to get to the reception.
Thanks for deflating me there, sir. David, go ahead.
Thank you. David Clark, from the Northeast, high school board. And taking note of the fact that it appears that the Vermont School Boards Association board has decided to take no position with regards to forced merger. I am kind of curious as to why the executive committee submitted testimony yesterday to the state board, which would appear to contravene the spirit and intent of the VSBA's board position.
All right, so I'll just explain a little bit of the litany of what Dave was talking about here. In 2017, the VSBA board passed a resolution that we took to the General Assembly that said that we did not want to see major changes in Act 46. Then they were discussing Act what became Act 49. And the position of the board is you can make tweaks to the law, but no major changes. You know, it's a game changer for so many boards who are so far along. And then last in September, was it the September meeting? Thank you, Dan, that we approved another resolution that stated that because of the variety of composition of boards across the state, that the VSBA wasn't in position to speak to this forced mergers that basically happened yesterday. That the VSBA board is not going to take any positions on the forced merger. But the executive committee decided that in early October, the state board passed a document that said that they were going to take failed 706B merger votes into account when they looked at the whether they should use that as a criteria. There's 5 goals of the act that they're supposed to use. So the VSBA board does not meet in October. The executive committee did meet via phone, and we discussed to see if those 2 resolutions were in conflict with each other. We decided it was not. And then it was decided to write a letter to the state board because we saw this as a game changer. The failed vote, if you take that into account, changes the C for many boards. To give you a personal example, would be my town, where we had our first merger vote failed. Had we known that was a criteria for not complying with Act 46, we might have stopped right there. But we did keep going. There was other towns that didn't even take a merger vote. They might have taken a merger vote to get a negative vote so they could say we complied with the law. So we saw it as becoming a voluntary. It makes the law instead of involuntary, it makes it a voluntary. It's a major change. So the executive committee decided to write that letter. Any other questions on our other business or comments? Okay, so I'll accept the motion to adjourn. We got Jim over there. We have a second to that? All right. So all those in favor, please stand up.
The gentleman that was here, this belongs to him.
I don't know how. Do I turn these off? Thank you. I just need my computer back. And somebody returned this.
Okay.
I fully appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna. So is this off or? Sorry. Are you guys heading back tonight? I'll see you in the morning.